took it all apart. I had to Google how to put it back together again. It was a stressful time. So whenever I like to put my bridle back together, I don't know why, but in my head I always think, okay, I'm the horse. This is how everything goes. Okay. This is Esme, and today's video is going to be all about tack and how to tack up a horse. So here we have Casper, who's going to be our demo pony today. Hello, yes. So before you need to tack up your horse must be clean. You must have groomed it first. So if you'd like to see how to groom a horse, I actually have a video on it already, so I'll leave a link in the description below. So Casper I have already cleaned, believe it or not. He's still not the cleanest. It's winter, he's a grey, and they like to get very dirty. But the reason why you have to groom your horse before you ride them or before you tack them up is because if your horse's face is really muddy, or if it's wet from being out in the rain, that can actually cause your horse's tack to rub, especially on the face area, on the saddle area, and also where the girth goes here. So those are the key areas that you need to make sure are clean. So although Casper's a tiny bit yellow stained, he is clean. There isn't any dust there. I've brushed all the dust off, so he's going to be nice and comfy. So anyway, first things first, I'm going to go and grab my tack and put it on. I'm going to show you how to put it on, and then I was thinking afterwards I can maybe talk about the different parts of the saddle, different parts of the bridle, how to put a bridle together. But first I'm actually going to show you how I tack up. Good man. Alright, so the first thing you'll need to put on your horse is the saddle. Some people have different personal preferences. Some people like to put the bridle on first. Currently it's winter, so I always like to put the saddle on first. This just also warms up their back a little bit. So here I have a saddle pad. Some people like to call this a saddle cloth. I always find the thicker, more square ones I like to call a saddle cloth. If it's just general, I like to call it a saddle pad. Some people, it's more of a British term, but a lot of people like to call it a numner. I always think of numners being the saddle pads as sort of in the shape of a saddle, but you can call it whatever you like, any of the three. So I'm going to call it a saddle pad just because people watch my videos all across the world, and that's kind of more the general term for it. So what I like to do is just gently put it on. I always put it a little bit too far forward and then kind of just slide it back to where it seems natural. It doesn't really matter too much if you put it a little bit too far forward or a little bit too far back to start with, because it's when you put the saddle on that you need to make sure that it's on in the right place. So now that's on. Also, if you want to make sure which way round the saddle pad goes, because some people can get a little bit confused, the strap here is where the girth goes through, is always going to be closer to the horse. So if it's back here, it's on the wrong way round. Also, saddle pads tend to have a little bit more of a swoop, so then they have an area for the withers, so it's giving them a bit of a wither relief, so it's not just pressing down on them. So if it's a little bit higher at the top, then you're on the right track. And also some saddle pads have a bit of Velcro, that's always going to be at the front as well. This one doesn't, some do, some don't, it depends what you have, but that's another indicator on if you've got it on the right way round. This, it is just down to personal preference. It can also be due to the fit of a horse's saddle. Sometimes horses' saddles fit better if they have a half pad. I like to use one with Casper, so I'm just going to pop that gently on top. Also, the reason why horses wear saddle pads is when they get sweaty and warm, this will absorb the sweat, so then it doesn't rub. So that's why people tend to ride with a saddle pad rather than without one. Some people don't ride with saddle pads for things such as showing, because they want to show off more of the horse, but for general day-to-day use, most people use one. Alright, so now I have my saddle and also my girth. The girth is kind of like the horse's belt, so I'm just going to put that there on the side because we will need that very soon. With my saddle, I always like to keep a saddle cover on it just to keep it clean, keep it tidy. It's also waterproof as well, so that's brilliant. So I'm just going to take that off now. Voila! Okay, so this is a GP saddle. Later on I'm going to talk about the different types of saddles. GP stands for general purpose, so with this saddle I could do jumping with Casper, I could do dressage with him, really depends what I'm feeling like. So I'm just going to gently pop this on now. There we go. So you might be thinking, this isn't quite in the right place. I want to make it nice and comfy. So what I like to do is, I'm just gonna put that slightly further back. I like to lift up the front here to make sure that it's nice and comfy on his withers. Just get a little bit of an adjust. Lift it all the way forward, which seems a bit excessive, but it means with a well-fitted saddle, if you slide it back, it generally kind of stops in the correct place it should be. If you're kind of forcing it to go back, then it's too far back. Casper doesn't have the best conformation. I always say he's built like a sausage dog. He has a very long body for his height. So when you're looking at a horse and you're looking at where the saddle should be, a lot of people kind of think, oh, it shouldn't be. A lot of people think Casper's saddle is actually too far forward because he has such a long body, because there's a lot of room here, but actually it's very perfectly and nicely on him. And also you should be able to fit 3 fingers when you fit a saddle underneath here. As you can see, he's got a lot of room here, a lot of wither clearance, so it's not going to be pressing down on him, so he's going to be nice and comfortable. So next I'm going to grab my girth. And what you need to do is lift up the saddle flap here. I'm going to go through the different parts of the saddle later, but what you need to do is, with most saddle pads, there's a little area here that you go under and through, and then I'm just going to do the buckles up. I like to do the buckles on the smallest hole first, just because Casper does like to puff his tummy out. He likes to be a bit of a practical joker and make my life difficult. So that looks all nice and tidy. The saddle pad isn't all scrunched up. So I'm just gonna gently put this down here, and I'm gonna pop over to the other side and do his girth up. All right, I am now on the other side, so I'm just gonna gently bend down and pick up Casper's girth. I think he's having a bit of a scratch. Oh no, he's just putting his head down over there. So then it is time to do up the buckles. I'm really weird and I like to put this on my head just so I can actually see what I'm doing with the buckles, and we'll also see how much is Casper puffing his tummy out. Oh, not too bad, got it on to number 3. So as you can see, there is a little bit of room here. Casper does have an anatomical girth, so it means that when he is moving, his shoulder can move, so he's got a little bit of space here. So that's also how you know where the girth goes. For example, it can depend on your saddle and also what discipline you are. So for example, in Icelandic riding, I know that they have their saddle a little bit further back than we usually do well, I'm a show jumper, but for show jumping. So that is looking good. We've got a little bit of space here, not too much. I like to just pick up Casper's leg. Oh, excuse me, mate. I know you want a bit of a scratch. I like to give him a bit of a stretch just because he's quite sensitive, and it just means that I can make sure that the girth is in the right place, that the skin underneath the girth isn't all kind of under there and folded. It's nice and comfortable for him, so when he moves it's not pinching him. Yes, I know, you want the attention. So no, that is looking pretty good. Obviously I will do my girth up again later on as I'm tacking him up, and I'll do it up once again before I get on him as well, and maybe after I've warmed up too, just because you do like to puff your tummy out and you like to make it difficult for me. Yes. But no, checking your girth is very important, because you don't want to be riding along, your girth being too loose and your saddle going whoop and sliding off the side. Alright, so next I'm going to be showing you how I put on Casper's bridle. So this is a cavesson one. This means that the noseband is in this sort of shape. You can get lots of different ones, such as a grackle, which is kind of like an X and crosses over. You can get a flash, which is an added attachment that you can have. But no, Casper's is just a plain old cavesson. There are also lots of different bits out there, because all horses are different. All horses use slightly different tack, but I'd say this is pretty much standard of what you usually find. So what I like to do when I put on Casper's bridle is I actually undo the lead rope. Now this is really important with what I'm going to show you later. So I undo it, but I have it through the baler twine just like this. So it's going to take him a while to walk away. He's pretty good, he just stands here. But it also means that you can either undo the buckle or you can undo the little clipper here. I do have a video on how to put on a head collar as well. But what I like to do is slide it over onto his neck. Now this is really important, that if you do decide to do this, that this isn't tied up. It means that if Casper does spook, this isn't going to pull on his neck and hurt him, but it does mean that he's still half tied up, he's still here, and he knows that I've got him and he's not going to go running off. I also like to put the reins over his head first, just so then again I have a little bit more on him. Next, what I like to do is I will kind of have his head very close to mine. I will grab the top with my right hand, and then I'll get the bit ready to put on in his mouth very gently. So Casper's usually very good and it goes straight in. And then what you want to do is quickly put the right ear in first and the left next. So I say the right because I'm tacking him up on the left. Most people, it's standard to tack up on the left, especially here in England. And that's because you want to put the outside ear through first, just so then it's a bit easier for when you put the second one through. So what you need to do first is do the throat lash up. So this is usually the hole I have it on. If you don't know what hole it usually goes on, it's quite easy to tell. You should be able to fit about a fist underneath there. So this just stops the bridle from slipping off. So that's why I usually like to put it on first. And then next I'm going to be putting his noseband, doing that up. So what you need to make sure when you're tacking up is that the noseband goes underneath this strap here, underneath the keepers that's attached to the bit. He's getting a little bit impatient because he finds it a bit tickly when it's not done up. So I'm just going to do that up now on his usual buckle. Make sure that's all comfortable for him, and that's through all of the keepers. So it's not going to be accidentally being undone. And then to make sure if your bridle is fitting correctly for the noseband, I always say it's good to fit around 2 fingers underneath there to make sure it's not too tight on him and not too loose either. So now Casper's bridle is on, I can quickly undo his head collar, pop that away, pop that on the side, and now Casper is tacked up. So next I'm going to show you a few more bits of tacking up that not all horses have, such as boots and breastplates, just in case there is a horse that you need to tack up that does have them. So I'm going to quickly put his bridle back on now. I'm actually going to put it over the top. This is what a lot of people do if they need their horse being tacked up but don't want them walking around or going anywhere while they still have their tack on. So I do this a little bit looser just because it's got to fit over all of his tack. And of course, once you've done that, you need to make sure your horse is tied back up again because you don't want them wandering around. Good man, there we go. You look very smart. Good boy, yeah. This is a breastplate. This one is actually Joey's, it's not Casper's, so it probably won't quite be on the correct settings for him. It might be a little bit too big because again, Joey is a little bit bigger than Casper, but I'm going to show you how to put it on in case you guys need to know how to put on a breastplate. Again, not all horses have this, depends on the horse. I like to use one on Joey because this actually has a martingale attachment. This again, I'll show you how to put it on, but the reins go through this and it just makes sure that your horse's head doesn't go way up high in the sky. I'm very lucky that I don't have to use one on Casper. I did used to back in the day, but not anymore. Again, with tack and with horses, you can change it depending on the horse and how they're going at the current time. With Joey, I've actually changed his bit recently and I'm finding he's going a lot better in his new one. So as I say, all horses are different, all tack is different. So I'm going to show you how I put this on. Some people like to put this on before putting on their saddle, some people like to put it on after, some people like to put it on when they're putting on the bridle. It really depends. I personally like to put this on first if I am tacking up with the martingale, but I'll show you how to put it on because I didn't want to show you at the start so it wouldn't be too overwhelming. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to put it on. So I'm just going to take off the lead rope, very gently slide this over Casper's head. As you can see, he is a pro when it comes to being tacked up. Just going to attach his lead rope again to his head collar so he doesn't go walking off and wandering off. Also, some people call a head collar in different countries a halter. I'm British, I'm used to calling it a head collar, so that's what I'm going to call it for this video. So with a breastplate, this is actually a 5-point breastplate because there are 5 different points. 2 here, 1 here, 1 down here, and then 2 the other side. So my reins are a little bit tangled with the breastplate at the moment, so I'm just going to get those through. So they're a little bit separated, so you can see that's the reins, that's the breastplate. Some have like a little clicker, mine have buckles, so I do the top ones through the D-ring and then just do up the buckle as so. And then there's one lower down here. So with this you actually, oh, Casper's gone for a little wander. Casper, can you stand please? I'm trying to film a video. So I'm gonna undo my girth, and what I like to do is I will thread this keeper through the girth. So it goes over the buckles. There we go, that's now through with a bit of wiggling, and then it's time to do the girth up again, which Casper's going to make my life a little bit tricky. Is he puffing out his stomach? No, he's being a good boy. There we go. Do that back up. And now that is through. Obviously you can adjust the buckles to make sure it fits them. Again, this is on Joey's settings. And then this little bottom bit here, it depends on your girth. So sometimes this can fit through the girth, as you can see. If your girth is this thickness all the way through, then that would fit fine all the way through. But because Casper's is an atomical girth, there's a little thicker bit here, so it wouldn't fit. So he actually has a little buckle right underneath here, which I'm gonna undo, and then you just loop that through, do the buckle up again, and there we go, it's on. So some people like to use breastplates without the martingale attachment. Mine you can take off, so you can use it for a breastplate or a martingale. People like to use breastplates, especially for things such as cross country, where your horse is going to be going over quite big fences. Your saddle might move around a little bit. If your saddle's moving around too much, then that could be caused by an ill-fitting saddle. But if you're galloping at high speeds and if you're jumping over big fences, then your saddle is going to move a tiny bit, however well it's fitted. So I'm just going to clip this back on, and we're going to show you how to put on a martingale. Some martingales don't have a breastplate attachment, so it's a little bit less complicated. It's just a single strap that goes all the way around, and then the bottom strap down here. So what I'm going to do is undo the buckle on my reins, and then what you have to do is slide the reins through. Now, when you use a martingale, you must make sure that you have stoppers on your reins. If not, the loop here could go all the way up and get tangled, which would not be great. Casper has just chucked his reins on the ground. And then you're gonna get the other little loop, pop your rein through, and so slide up and over, and then do the buckle up. Depending on if you're at a riding school and maybe you've been given some tack and have been asked to tack up your horse, sometimes the martingale will be attached to the reins, so it's easier to put it on once your saddle's already on. It really does depend, but there you go. I just need to slide the stoppers up to the top. And Casper has now got on a breastplate and martingale. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly take off his breastplate, and then I thought we'd quickly talk about the different parts of the saddle and also the different parts of the bridle. All right, so here are all my saddles. I thought I would show you guys so you can kind of see the difference between each one, because they all are slightly different. As you guys know, I'm also very lucky to be a sponsored rider by Voltaire Design, so they are all Voltaire Design saddles. So here, this is my jumping saddle. This is the one I mainly use for Joey. The difference between the jumping saddle is that they are a little bit more forward cut, so it means that my leg can be in a nice position for when I'm doing my jumping position or jumping. here we have my GP saddle. I kind of think of it as if a dressage saddle and a jumping saddle had a baby, it would be a GP saddle, because you can do absolutely everything in this. So you can see it's not as forward cut as the jumping saddle, but it still is slightly. And then also the dressage saddle we have over here, the reason why this one is slightly different is because it has a deeper seat. So you can see that this seat is deeper than this one, but this is the deepest. Also, the dressage saddle is a little bit more straight, so it means when you're doing dressage you tend to have longer stirrups as well, so your legs can be nice and long. So yeah, here is the difference between them all. You can kind of see a little bit more which one's which. A lot of people tend to think, oh, if it's a black saddle, it's a dressage one. If it's a brown saddle, then it's a jumping one. You can identify saddles that way. However, it's not the best. It's better to look at the shape, because some people do have brown dressage saddles and people do have black jumping saddles. It really does depend on what you have. So anyway, now I thought I would talk through a little bit more about the points of the saddle. I'll take these guys away so we have a bit more space, and I'll talk about it on my GP saddle. Alright, so we are back with my general purpose saddle, and I thought I'd go through the points of the saddle. So this front bit here is called the pommel. To remember it, I always think of a camel, how they have a hump. I don't know why, but a pommel makes me think of a camel. So we have the pommel at the front, and then at the back we have the cantle, which again sounds like canter, so I kind of think of it as that, canter at the back, or cantle at the back, pommel at the front. If we lift up this bit here, is called the skirt. If we lift it up, you can see there's a little ring here. This is called the D ring. Then we have the seat, which is where your butt goes. Very self-explanatory. We have a keeper here, which is where your stirrup leather goes through. This is the stirrup leather. If I pop that back, of course we have the stirrups. If you want to know how to do stirrups up and down, it's very easy. You just pull it down to pull them down, and then to put them up, there's two different parts of the stirrup leather, the top bit and the bottom bit. If you push it up the bottom bit all the way to the top, and then with your remaining bit you just slide it under, pull, and then your stirrup will stay up, which is very handy to know. If we lift up the flap, also this saddle isn't a monoflap saddle, my other two actually are. So the girth straps are all the way down here, but no, if we lift it up, here we have the billet, and then we have the little billet straps here. So you can find them there. This bit just protects your saddle from the buckles, the billet strap, and then here we have the knee rolls. With my jumping saddle, I have very big knee rolls, which is nice to put my knees in when I'm jumping, so I feel very secure. So if I pick it up, we can have a little look underneath. So here we have the flaps, the panels, and then right down here in the center is the gullet, and then right inside we have the tree, which is sort of like the spine of the saddle. So anyway, I am going to go and pop this back, and then we can go through parts of the bridle. Alright, so as you've seen before, this is my bridle, and I thought for the parts of the bridle, we're going to go hardcore. I'm going to completely take it apart and go through piece by piece, putting it together, and I just feel like it will make it seem a little bit less complicated. I remember the first time I completely cleaned my tack, took it all apart, I had to Google how to put it back together again. It was a stressful time. So whenever I like to put my bridle back together, I don't know why, but in my head I always think, okay, I'm the horse. This is how everything goes. Okay, so I'm going to take everything apart and show you and talk about all the different pieces and what they're used for. So I'll be back when my bridle is just a bit of leather straps. Alright, so here I have the headpiece. It can also be called the crown or the crown piece, whatever you like. I like to call it the headpiece, so that's what I'm going to call it. Then next we have the Browband. So what you want to do when you're putting it back together, oh, I have a hair here, goodbye. Molting season is coming, not for me but for the horses. But anyway, what you need to do is slide the Browband through. I'm really bad. Every time I put a bridle back together, I always forget to put the brow band on. To be fair, there are some brow bands that you can clip on, which are really easy. Mine isn't, but there we go. It is now on. It's starting to form a bridle, guys. We're getting there. Also, my bridle is very easy to tell which way the headpiece is, because obviously it's got the logo. Also, it has these little cutout bits, so your horse's ears can go here and move around. So that's how I know which way the brow band goes. Next, it doesn't really matter which way you want to go. I'm going to put the noseband on first, just so it seems more like a bridle. So the noseband, the strap that you need to use, sometimes it's easy to tell because, for example, the throat lash one is slightly skinnier. But the noseband goes on the under one. As you can see, there's kind of three. There's two at the top, one at the bottom. So the one that's behind, or the one that's kind of under, is the one that you want to attach it to. So with Casper's bridle, I know exactly where this goes because there's a little mark on where the buckle goes. If it is a new bridle, I would recommend kind of remembering which hole it needs to go in. If not, when you put it back on, you'll probably be able to tell if it fits correctly. But bridle fitting is a totally different thing. But anyway, this is now got the noseband on. Next, we need our cheek pieces. Here we go, this is a cheek piece. To know if it's the right way around, the buckle goes at the top and the sort of keeper goes at the bottom. So the cheek pieces go on the thicker one or the one at the front. So I'm going to add these on now. Do those buckles up. Do the little keeper in. There we go. And then you have a second one as well that should be symmetrical on the other side. So again, put it through. I can see where it's been. There we go. And then next we have the bit. Casper's bit's pretty old now. I should probably get him a new one. He's kind of chewed through it. But anyway, so when you put the bit on, you need to make sure it's the right way around. So as you can see, it's kind of, it looks like a line, and to most people that haven't put a bridle on before, you're kind of thinking, oh no, which way does it go? So I always think of it as a smiley face. So that looks like a smiley face. If you try to do a smiley face this way, it doesn't look quite right. So it's more of a smile, so that is the correct way to put it on. Doesn't matter which side you put on, I'm going to put the left on first. So you also need to make sure that these keepers, that you can't see them. So when they're on the horse, you can't really see them at all. So you do the buckle up, and that is because just in case it gets caught, you don't want it to undo. Also, when you're putting them on, I find it easier if you put it through the leather part first and then just like push it through and pop it on, especially if your bridle is a little bit stiff. But mine, I have conditioned quite a lot, so it is in a really nice condition actually. It's everything goes through very nicely, so I'm just going to pop that through too. It's nice and soft. Pop it through again through the leather first, and then you can just press it down and it's on. So there we go, the bridle is all put together. All I need to do now is to, oh wait, I forgot. We have the throat lash. So I'm going to pop this on the right hand side first, just because I find it easier. Again, it's quite easy to tell what's last. I always like to do the throat lash last, as you can tell, because it's just the skinny one. Well, it's the skinny one on my bridle. There we go. And then round, and that can just go on the other side. I'm not going to do the buckle up completely because when I put my bridle away, I like to do this cool thing with the reins. So yeah, now it's time to finally put the reins on. So again, with these sort of keepers or buckles, it's kind of like a weird buckle, you need to make sure again that they're on the inside. The buckle shouldn't be on the outside, because again, if you're riding, if it catches on something, you don't want it to undo. If not, you're not going to have any reins to hold on to, and that would not be great. So again, put it through the keepers, put it through the leather part, and then pop it through, and there we go. Just have the other bit to do. Again, you need to make sure that your reins don't have any twists in, because you don't want twisty reins. You have to make sure that they are nice and straight. Pop the last bit in, and then your bridle is back together. Ta-da! So what I like to do, that I was going to show you guys, when I put my bridle away with my throat lash, is I undo this, put the reins through, and then do it up. And then this just means when you put it away, it's a little bit tidier. Your reins aren't dragging on the ground when you're carrying it. And also some people I know, like when they put their noseband on, they like to twist their noseband around and then do up the buckle just so it looks a little bit neater. I'm sometimes a bit too lazy to do that, but I do like to do the throat lash just because it's easier to carry. It's very easy to do and walk around with. So that is how you put a bridle back together. I thought I would also talk about boots because this is another piece of tack or equipment that some people like to use. Again, it can vary from horse to horse and discipline to discipline. So personally for me, I like to wear boots on my horses whenever I jump them. I also use boots all the time on Joey because he is a younger horse who can sometimes not really know where his legs are. So if I pop the other two down, here I have a pair of brushing boots. They are actually inside each other. If I take this one out, you will be able to see the other one is here. This is just how I like to store them. So with brushing boots, they actually have this leather panel here. It can be different materials. Mine's this faux leather material. So this panel is actually for when your horses are walk, trotting, cantering, whatever they're doing. It means that if their legs accidentally brush together, they're not going to hurt themselves and the boots will protect their legs. Also, when you are putting brushing boots on, I'll take you guys down here and I will show you. So when you're putting boots on, it's always good to stand to the side of your horse. If you're standing in front of them or behind them, then you might be in the risk area of getting kicked. Also, when you're doing this, make sure you crouch, don't kneel or don't sit down, because when I'm crouching, it means I can very easily run away or move away if Casper does decide to swing one of his legs at me, which would be very out of character, but it's good to do just in case. Even if your horse spooks or accidentally steps on you, that's not going to be fun. So when you put on boots, you just wrap them round. I like to do the top first. If you're doing boots that have three, I like to do the middle first. Personal preference. So you need to wrap them round, goes on the Velcro nicely. Very self-explanatory and easy to do. To make sure you're putting the boots on the correct leg, you need to make sure that the Velcro goes from the front to behind. So I always think of it as make sure that the Velcro is like a little arrow and it's always pointing towards the horse's tail. If not, for example, if I put this boot on, the Velcro would be going the wrong way because it would be pointing towards the horse's head. So always point towards the horse's tail. There we go. Next we have tendon boots. Again, these come in lots of different shapes and sizes. Mine have little poppers, some have Velcro, depends on what you decide to go for. So tendon boots, very self-explanatory. They're to protect your horse's tendons. They are found on sort of this part, so that is the most protective part of the boot. I like to use tendon boots for show jumping, just because, again, if they accidentally knock a pole or anything, the tendons are going to be covered and they're going to be protected. And lastly, we have cross-country boots. These are only really needed if you're going to do cross-country. However, I do quite like to wear them when I go to the beach, and that is because they have little holes here and this drains water. So it means, for example, if you go through a water jump, cross-country, your boots aren't going to get really heavy and weigh your horse down. So they drain. Also, they are very protective all the way around, even at the front as well. This is pretty solid because you're going to be jumping solid fences with your horses if you decide to do cross country. So I always wear boots when I'm doing cross country because I definitely want to make sure the little Casper over here or Joey's legs are protected too. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really hope it helped you if you didn't know how to tack up a horse before. Again, all horses are different, all tack is slightly different, and people like to tack up in different ways. This is just how I do it, and hopefully it helped some of you guys out there. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Casper for being a very well-behaved demo pony today. Well done, Casper. I'll get you some treats in a sec. But anyway guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you're new or have not done so already, please like and subscribe, as it really does help me out and I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you all next time. Bye! Well done, Casper. You're so good. Yeah, should we get you some treaties? Treaty time.